Hey there guys, what is going on? The other day, Dexito, which is a very popular Call of Duty news source, basically they put out a list of the most popular guns in Warzone, essentially so you could take a look at what everybody is using. This is sort of something that you can get a sense of when you do play the game, by weapons that you get killed by. Essentially, these are some of the strongest weapons in Warzone, as they are the most popular, means they are very useful and powerful in some regard. Anyway, we're going to be talking about 5 of them here today, but just before we do get into our number 5 here, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do very much appreciate it, and it has very much helped me out. We did very recently pass 4,000 subscribers, so I guess 5,000 subs is next, which is a very exciting milestone to hit, of course. So let's just jump straight into it with the number 5 slot here. So the number 5 slot on our list here is, of course, the FFAR-1, which is a very powerful assault rifle in this game. It almost plays like a bit of an SMG. This particular option does have a very fast fire rate in the game at about 900-ish rounds per minute, give or take. And basically what it specializes in is up close combat. So close to medium distances, this thing absolutely shreds people. Like, you will absolutely blitz through people. There's also a little bit of a glitch with some of the Cold War attachments, as shooting movement speed isn't a statistic that's been in the game previously. And it's sort of a little bit messed up with some of the things that you can do with this. Like, you can move very quickly while shooting with the last two options in the stock slot with the Cold War weapon, so keep that in mind. If we were looking at a best class setup for the FFAR-1, basically this is something that we would go with here. Starting off with that agency suppressor here, of course, for that sound suppression, damage range, and of course that touch increase to our vertical recoil control, which is a really nice option to start off with here. Basically, you're going to see this on a lot of weapons on this list. Then, of course, we move to that Task Force barrel, which does give us an increase to our damage, effective range, and of course the most important statistic, bullet velocity, which means the bullets will be hitting the target as fast as possible with this option. This barrel does say that it does increase our recoil, making it a little bit harder to hit our shots, but it actually doesn't do that at all, which is very funny. This is the option that we were talking about just before in the stock slot, the SAS combat stock, and of course the Raider pad. They do provide you with shooting movement speed, which is an interesting statistic here because basically that's not something that we've seen on any of the other weapons in Warzone previously, and when you are shooting, you basically just take off like a rocket. It is hilarious. So these are very interesting options here. In the underbarrel slot, we're going for the Field Agent group. We do get about a 10% increase to both of the recoil statistics here that we do get, vertical and horizontal, which is really nice. And then, of course, you want that Stenag 50 round mags, or the fast mag, of course, if you've got that unlocked, because this does give us the most amount of bullets to fire. And overall, the FFAR-1 is a very fun weapon to use in this game. You can play with it like an SMG. You can use this to back up a sniper class setup as sort of the close to medium range option. For the FFAR-1, around 6.3% of players are running around with an FFAR-1 in Warzone. In the 4 slot, we do have the Grau 556 here, which has been a very powerful weapon in Warzone previously. Essentially, it is that no recoil assault rifle option. You can really be pinpoint accurate with this thing. It is pretty ridiculous just how constant you can hit that target. Basically, you just send bullets down range and they will hit that target as hard and as fast and as accurately as possible. That's why people like the Grau 556. It does the job, man. You can get those kills at medium to longer distances with this thing. Pinpoint accuracy is the Grau 556, of course. If we were looking for a best class setup with the Grau 556, of course, we're looking for that monolithic suppressor as usual, sound suppression, damage range, and of course, bullet velocity with this bad boy is a very nice place to start. We then, of course, move to the Tempest 26.4-inch Archangel barrel, of course, damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control, meaning you can hit the target as hard and as fast and as accurately as possible. Then, of course, the Commando foregrip as well for that recoil stabilization. This helps out with our horizontal recoil control, which is very nice. We're taking the 60 round or the 50 round mags, basically to increase the amount of bullets that we've got to fire. 50 is probably a touch better if you are being slightly more aggressive. Does reduce your aim down sight speed a little bit less than the 60 round mags. But if you are using this at longer distances, 60 round mags is also good. And in the last slot, you can pretty much choose between something like a aim down sight speed option like the TAC laser, or of course the XRK Void 2 grip, or you can take something that does help out with those longer distance combat with the VLK 3x optic, which does give you a little bit of recoil control and a nice clear sight picture. This is up to you here. So as I said, the Grau 556 is basically one of the most accurate weapons that you can play with in the game. It essentially lets you hit the target from most medium to longer distance fights. For the Grau 556, about 7% of players are running around with this particular option in Warzone. In the number 3 slot here, we do of course have the Kilo 141. Now, very similar to the Grau 556, of course. Essentially, I think it just hits a touch harder, does a little bit more damage compared to the Grau 556. But in the end, they are very similar weapons. The reason we like the Kilo 141 is, of course, the accuracy that we do get with this particular weapon. Very, very similar to the Grav 556. Of course, you can hit targets at those medium to longer distances. You're going to be fighting at medium to longer distances with this assault rifle, and you can always take like an SMG or something to deal with close quarters combat, because that is not where this weapon specializes. Of course, the Kilo 141 class setup that we would look at is very, very similar to what we have featured previously, with that monolithic suppressor here, of course, sound suppression, damage range, and of course, bullet velocity. Then, of course, the big barrel, the damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. Again, meaning we can hit that target as fast, hard, and as accurately as possible. VLK 3 times optic, as this is designed around that medium to longer distance combat, so we get that recoil control from this optic, as well as a nice clear sight picture. Again, commando foregrip as well to maintain that recoil stabilization with that horizontal recoil, making it easier for us to hit our shot. And then, of course, similar stage, 60 round or 50 round or 100 round drum mags if you're feeling particularly spicy, but these do give you like LMG levels of movement speed and aim down sight speed. So again, the Kilo 141, a very, very similar weapon to the Grau 556, of course, meaning we can hit those shots at those medium to longer distances. Typically going to struggle a touch at those close distance combat, as it doesn't do super good damage at close. It does have a relatively slow fire rate compared to something like a Mac 10 or an MP5. So keep that in mind if you are making your class setup with the Kilo 141. For the Kilo 141, about 8.9% of people are running around with a Kilo in their class setup. In the number 2 slot on our list, we have the Kar 98K, which is a very, very interesting weapon to be so high on these lists. I mean, I guess a lot of people like sniping and killing people at about 0 to 150 meters distance. Most of the time, people take the Kar 98 because it is an absolute monster at those medium distance combat, especially if you do like sniping, which clearly by the percentage-based stats of about 13% of people running around with a Kar 98, a lot of people like sniping in this game. I believe if you do get a headshot with this weapon, you will down someone regardless of how much armor they have. Whereas if you hit him in the body or something like that, you are probably just going to break their armor rather than downing them. But like, the Kar 98 is specialized in those quick scoping engagements. Basically, you want to aim as quick as possible, hit a shot, hopefully break their armor, or get a down or something like that, meaning you can go and finish the job or fight somebody else if necessary. If we're looking at a class setup for the Kar 98, of course we want to go with something like this in terms of that monolithic suppressor. Again, sound suppression, damage range, bullet velocity, meaning the bullets hit the target as fast as possible. Again, you don't want to be fighting at too long a distance with this because of the bullet velocity. There's a little bit of drop off here, so we try and maximize these stats with, of course, the largest barrel, the Singard Custom 27.6. Damage range, bullet velocity, recoil control. Again, we want to be as effective as possible at those sort of medium to longer distances. Again, tac laser, of course, is an option for the aim down sight speed. Visible laser is not really super relevant. Aiming stability and aim walking steadiness are really nice stats though. The sniper scope, of course, so we can hit those excellent quick scopes. Man, I'm a terrible sniper in this game, but I still run around with a Kar 98. It is a lot of fun to use. And then you can choose between something like a stippled grip tape, of course, for that aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, or again, something like the stock in the F-Tac Sport Comb or the Precision Comb for that aiming stability. It really does depend on what you do want to choose here. So of course, the Kar 98K is the quick scoping, excellent sniping option in this game. I mean, a lot of people love sniping in Call of Duty games. It's basically what it's all about. So the Kar 98 is a great choice in Warzone if you are into that playstyle. For the Kar 98, about 12.8% of people are running around with this absolute monster of a marksman rifle here. And lastly, you probably knew this was coming. The most used weapon in Warzone right now is, of course, the Mac 10. Essentially the best weapon in the game. For those SMG players, you basically just sprint around everywhere with this fast firing weapon. It has a net fire rate of about 1100. You sprint around everywhere, blast people away if you are very, very close to them. Really, really effective at pretty much anything at those close distances. I mean, you can just hit fire people, you can aim down sight, you can do whatever you like with this thing. It just shreds people, which is absolutely hilarious in this game. But you already knew most of that about the Mac 10, of course. In terms of a class setup here, what we want to go with is, of course, something very, very similar to what we have seen previously. That agency suppressor does start us off here with that sound suppression damage range, as well as a nice little increase to our recoil control, which is a very, very nice option here. Then in that barrel, we take that task force barrel, again, damage, effective damage range, and of course bullet velocity, as well as not reducing our recoil control, which is really, really nice here. It means we can hit the target as hard and as fast as possible. If you are looking for a slightly different option, the rifled barrel actually does increase our recoil control, making it very, very easy for us to hit our shots here. In the stock slot, we're going for the SAS combat stock for that shooting movement speed, or again, you can go with the Raider stock as well. These do have similar statistics here with that shooting movement speed, which is basically a broken stat in this game. Essentially, as you are shooting people, you take off, you increase your movement speed, which is absolutely hilarious here. So keep that in mind if you are making these class setups. Then, of course, that underbarrel, we do want that field agent grip, vertical and horizontal recoil control increases of about 10%, which does help keep us on target here, which is a really nice option. And then lastly, we want that Stanag 53 round drum mag, or of course the fast mag, depending on what you do want to choose here, depending on your aim down sight speed. This is up to you, but we want the most amount of bullets to fire, especially if we are running around hip firing, which is really, really good option in Warzone. And lastly, about 16.8% of all Warzone players are running around with a MAC-10 in their class setup at any given time. It is a very, very strong weapon in this game. So basically, those are the most popular Warzone guns in the game right now. Of course, we have the MAC-10, the Kar98K, the Kilo 141, the Grau 556, and the FFAR1. I'm sure you're probably wondering where the CR56 AMAX is on this list, and it is in the 6th slot at about 5.9% of usage. Anyway guys, I do appreciate you checking out this video. If you do want to see more stuff like this, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on. I do very much appreciate it, and it does very much help me out, and I will of course see you in the next video. Bye!